Have you ever wondered why some people seem to effortlessly attract success, while you struggle, work hard, and still can't get anywhere? There's no lack of talent. There's no lack of effort. It's something much deeper and more invisible, a silent law that's shaping your reality without you even realizing it. Owen Hermstring, in his groundbreaking book, The Law Behind the Laws, reveals that there are energetic forces operating behind the scenes in your life, determining who you become and what you attract. These laws don't appear in traditional self-help books. They don't rely on positive thinking or visualization. They simply exist and are working for or against you right now. Today, you'll discover why success has been slipping through your fingers and the truth about who you're truly becoming. Prepare to awaken. Since childhood, you've been taught that success comes from hard work, dedication, and persistence. Your parents, teachers, and mentors have repeated this formula as if it were absolute truth. But if that were truly all there is to it, why do so many people work tirelessly and yet live trapped in cycles of frustration? The answer is something Owen Hermstring calls the silent law, an invisible force that operates below your conscious level and determines what you attract into your life. This law doesn't care about your best interests. It doesn't respond to your positive affirmations or your vision boards. It responds to your true energetic frequency, the vibration you emit when no one is looking, when you're alone with your deepest thoughts. This is why you can repeat, "I am abundant," 1,000 times and still go broke financially. Because your internal frequency is tuned to scarcity, fear, and doubt. The silent law works like an invisible magnet. While your conscious mind desires success, wealth, and fulfillment, your subconscious may be programmed for sabotage, self-limitation, and failure. This programming comes from years of conditioning, more inherited from your family, unprocessed traumas, social messages you absorbed without question. And worst of all, you don't even know you're carrying this weight. Hermstring explains that most people live on autopilot, reacting to invisible patterns that were installed decades ago. You think you're making conscious choices, but in fact, you're repeating old scripts. You choose partners who reflect your unhealed wounds. You accept offers that confirm your low self-esteem. You sabotage opportunities that could elevate you because, deep down, a part of you doesn't believe you deserve more. The good news? Once you identify this law, you can reprogram it. But this requires more than superficial affirmations. It requires you to dive into the deepest layers of your being and face the uncomfortable truths you've been avoiding. Demand that you recognize the patterns that repeat themselves and make the conscious choice to break them. Think about your life right now. What patterns do you find yourself repeating? What situations keep popping up, even when you swear, "This time it will be different"? These aren't accidents. They're signs of the silent law in action. And until you learn the language of this law, you'll remain trapped in the same cycles, expecting different results while emitting the same old frequency. Success doesn't escape you by chance. It escaped you because you haven't yet understood the real rules of the game. Imagine you're driving a car with the handbrake on. You accelerate, burn gas, push yourself to the limit, but the car barely moves. This is the reality for most people. They're accelerating toward their dreams while invisible blocks hold everything back. Owen Hermstring identifies these blocks as energetic resistances, internal forces that neutralize all your external efforts. The first block is what Hermstring calls a frozen identity. You say you want to change, but deep down you're deeply attached to who you've always been. Your subconscious mind sees change as a threat. If you've always been a financially struggling person, any move toward abundance sets off internal alarms. Your brain interprets success as a danger because it means abandoning a familiar identity, even if that identity causes you pain. Think about how many times you've been close to a major achievement, and then, out of nowhere, something went wrong. A promising relationship ends abruptly. A business opportunity falls apart. You become ill just as things were looking up. These aren't bad luck or accidents. They're manifestations of your identity block. Your mind is literally sabotaging your progress to keep you safe within the old version of yourself. The second block is unconscious loyalty. Many people carry legacy messages from their families and backgrounds. If you grew up in a home where money was seen as corrupt, where successful people were criticized, where humility demanded short-term tenure, you absorbed these messages. And now, pursuing success feels like a betrayal of your roots. Subconsciously, you sabotage yourself from persisting in the goals you achieve, even if it means sacrificing your own potential. Hermstring tells stories of people who, upon reaching higher income levels than their parents, immediately experienced crises that destroyed their finances, not because they were incompetent, but because their parents' financial protection felt like a violation of the family order. This block operates completely outside of awareness, but its effects are devastating. The third block is struggle addiction. Some people have become so identified with effort, with difficulty, with the narrative of "I always have to fight for everything," that they can't find ease. When something is easy, they're non-invasive. When someone offers help, they refuse. When a door opens without resistance, they look for a trick. This blockage turns you into someone who only values what comes with pain, rejecting the victories that come easily. The painful truth is that these blocks are stronger than your willpower. You can set goals, make plans, wake up at 5 a.m. But if these invisible blocks are active, you'll go in circles. The good news is that they can be deactivated. But first, you need to accept that they exist. You need to stop blaming external circumstances and start investigating the internal prisons you've built yourself. Because the truth is, you're not trapped out there. You're trapped in here. And only you hold the key. If you observe your life with brutal honesty, you'll notice something disturbing. You're living the same patterns over and over again, just with different characters and scenarios. Relationships change, but the dynamics are the same. Jobs change, but the conflicts are identical. Opportunities present themselves, but you always find a way to self-sabotage. This isn't bad luck. It's a code, a deep programming that determines the patterns you live. Owen Hermstring explains that this code was installed in the most formative phases of your life, especially in the first 7 years. During this period, your brain operated primarily in theta waves, a highly suggestible state where you absorb everything around you without a critical filter. Everything you saw, heard, and experienced became absolute truth to your subconscious. If you saw your parents fighting over money, you encoded, "Money causes conflict." If you were ignored when you expressed needs, you encoded, "My needs don't matter." If you were praised only when you were productive, you encoded, "My worth depends on what I do." These codes now function as background software, running automatic programs that shape your choices, options, and reality. You don't consciously choose to sabotage yourself. The code chooses for you. You don't deliberately decide to attract emotionally unavailable people. The code regulates a familiar pattern and says, "This feels right." You don't plan to fail when you're close to success. The code detects that you're stepping outside your programmed comfort zone and triggers protective mechanisms. Hermstring identifies 3 main codes that govern most people. The first is the entitlement code, a deep-seated belief about how much love, success, and happiness you deserve. This code was determined by how you were treated as a child. If you were neglected, abused, or constantly criticized, your entitlement code was set to low. Now, as an adult, you deliberately reject opportunities that exceed this limit. You might achieve something incredible, but soon after, you do something that defeats everything because you've exceeded the ceiling of what your code allows. The second is the safety code, your beliefs about what is safe versus dangerous. For many people, staying small is safe. Being invisible is safe. Not taking risks is safe. This code was instilled by overprotective parents, volatile environments, or experiences of public humiliation. Now, any movement toward visibility, risk, or expansion triggers danger alarms. Your nervous system interprets growth as a threat and paralyzes you with anxiety, procrastination, or self-sabotage. The third is the identity code, who you believe you are not on a deeper level. This code answers the question, who am I when no one is looking? If your identity code says, "I am someone who always fights," you will create fights. If it says, "I am someone who has never been chosen," you will ensure exclusion. Not because you want to, but because your subconscious is programmed to confirm this identity. The only way to permanently change your life is to reprogram these codes. Superficial affirmations don't work because they don't reach the depths where the code is installed. You need to access the subconscious through practices that bypass the conscious mind: deep meditation, somatic work, reprogramming therapy. You need to identify exactly which codes are running and deliberately replace them. Because as long as the old code is active, you'll continue living the same patterns, miraculously hoping something will change. But nothing changes until you change the code. Now that you understand the invisible laws, the energy blocks, and the subconscious codes, the question remains: how do you actually change all of this? How do you go from being a victim of these forces to their master? Owen Hermstring offers a clear path, but he warns, it's not easy and it's not quick. It requires a total commitment to truth and a willingness to be deeply uncomfortable. The first step is what Hermstring calls the Great Inventory, a brutal audit of your current life. You need to look at each area, relationships, finances, health, career, and ask, what pattern am I repeating here? No judgment, no excuses, just honest observation. Write it all down. The relationships that always end the same way, the financial cycles that repeat themselves, the opportunities you sabotage, the behaviors you swear you'll change but never do. This inventory reveals your active codes. The second step is source tracing. Identify where each code was installed. For each pattern you agree with, ask, when did I first experience this? Often you'll find a direct connection to childhood experiences or messages you've absorbed from authority figures. Maybe your financial insecurity stems from seeing your parents panic about money. Maybe your fear of bullying stems from being emotionally abandoned. Finding the source isn't about past guilt. It's about understanding the programming so you can change it. The third step, and perhaps the most powerful, is energetic reprogramming. Hermstring teaches that you can't reprogram the subconscious with logic or positive thinking alone. You need to create emotional experiences that are stronger than the original experiences that installed the code. This means somatic work, feeling the emotions trapped in the body and releasing them. It means deep visualization in altered states of consciousness where the subconscious is open. It means repeating new experiences until they become the new default programming. For example, if your code says, I am not worthy of love, you don't change it by repeating, I am worthy. You change it by creating real experiences, even small ones, where you practice receiving love, where you place yourself in vulnerable situations and are accepted, where you reprogram your nervous system to consider that safety and love can coexist. You train your body, not just your mind. The fourth step is frequency alignment, adjusting your energy to match the reality you desire. Hermstring explains that you don't attract what you want, you attract what you are. If you want abundance but vibrate in scarcity, you will continue to create scarcity. Frequency alignment means embodying the version of yourself that already has or that you desire. How does this person think? What is their age? How do they relate to money, love, opportunities? You begin to live from this identity now, not when everything changes. The fifth and final step is radical coherence. Eliminate any contradiction between what you say you want and what you actually do. Hermstring is relentless here. You may want success with your mouth, but if your daily actions contradict this, your actions win. Radical coherence means that every choice, every habit, every repeated thought must be aligned with the reality you are creating. No more, I want to be healthy, while junk food arrives every day. No more, I want abundance, while I have a poverty mentality. Your actions must be the physical proof of your new programming. Reality bending isn't magic. It's reverse engineering the laws that were always there, learning their language, and then reprogramming your internal system to work with them, not against them. And when you do that, what seemed impossible becomes impossible. There's a moment in the journey of transformation where everything changes. It's not when you learn a new technique. It's not when you read another book. It's when you finally accept the most frightening truth of all. You are 100% responsible for everything that's happening in your life. You're not responsible for the things that happened to you. You're responsible for how you responded, for the stories you created, for for the identity you chose to inhabit. Owen Hermstring calls this the final awakening, the moment when you stop being a victim of situations and become the conscious architect of your reality. This awakening isn't comfortable. In fact, it's devastating, because it means you can no longer blame your parents, your partner, your boss, the economy, your genetics, or your past. It means that everything you've been experiencing is the direct result of your internal programming and the unconscious choices you've made. But within this devastation lies total liberation, because if you created this, you can create something different. If you are the unconscious author of a story of limitations, you can consciously rewrite the script. If you've been the architect of self-sabotaging patterns, you can redesign the blueprint. The question is no longer, why is this happening to me? The question becomes, what in me is creating this and how do I change? Hermstring explains that most people never reach this awakening because it's easier to remain in the illusion of powerlessness. It's more comfortable to believe you're a victim of external forces than to accept that you have the power to change everything. Because with power comes responsibility, and with responsibility comes the impossibility of continuing to make the same excuses. When you finally wake up, you begin to see your life with brutal clarity. You see the patterns that have been repeating themselves for decades. You see the excuses you've fabricated. You see the opportunities you've wasted because you were stuck in old codes. And you see, perhaps for the first time, who you're truly becoming, not who you say you want to be, but who your daily actions are building. The truth is, every day, you are becoming someone. Every choice is a vote for an identity. Every repetitive thought is a building block in the construction of who you will be 5 years from now. If you spend your days complaining, you are becoming bitter. If you spend your days consuming content without applying anything, you are becoming someone who knows a lot and does a little. If you spend your days avoiding discomfort, you are becoming weak. But if you spend your days consciously reprogramming, facing your fears, and being content despite resistance, you are becoming extraordinary. Hermstring offers a powerful final practice, the mirror test. Every day, look in the mirror and ask, based on my choices today, who am I becoming? Don't lie. Don't fool yourself with fancy interests or future plans. Look at what you actually did today and ask if those actions are building the person you say you want to be. Success isn't escaping you because you're not good enough. It's escaping you because you haven't yet truly decided who you want to become and have committed every fiber of your being to that transformation. You're still trying to change outcomes without changing your identity. You're still trying to manifest a new life while inhabiting an old version of yourself. The ultimate awakening is simple. Stop trying to reclaim your life and start rebuilding yourself from scratch. Uninstall old codes, reprogram blockages, align your frequency. And then with radical coherence become physically, emotionally, and energetically a person who lives the reality you desire. Because you don't attract what you want, you become what you are. And it's time to decide who you are. If this content resonated with you, leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more truths about real transformation. Comment below, what invisible blockage have you encountered in your life? Share this video with someone who needs a wake-up call. We'll see you next time.